All right, everyone. That is enough of all that music. God, I wish we could do something about that. Anyways, unhappy Wednesday, everyone. Coming to you live once again from our humble abode. This is the Unhappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio and part of the Green Legion Radio family. We thank you for joining us, as always, from wherever you may be and whatever service you're using to tune in. So please, pull up a chair, turn up the volume, use the company dime if you're still stuck at work. Crack open a cold one if you've got the option, and let's have some fun as we try to put an end to day 3 of this week's hostage situation and look forward to tomorrow being Friday Eve. Already in the room, Keenan Harmon, play that effed up music. I know, man. I'm sorry. It just kind of is what it is. Andrew Bagley, Faith and Nola tonight. That's a little that's risky, brother. I think you have to have faith, though. The Phillies are playing better ball, and you just hope that kind of rolls into his start here coming up. So I'm going to say Faith and Nola tonight, and let's see what the Phils can do. Lou Mancini in the room. I know who the week is, but I won't spoil it. It should be obvious. Especially the way I described it. And Keenan wants him to go ahead and drop that name. We'll get to that in just a few, but a little bit of business as usual first. Folks, if you're tuning in on Facebook or Twitter, please do not forget to like, follow, share, subscribe to the Green Legion. If those services are where you're comfortable, we totally get it. But just so you know, the YouTube channel is the best way to view, listen, and comment on any Green Legion radio show. So please do us a solid, even if you're on Facebook, Twitter, or whatever. Head on over to YouTube, search the Green Legion, click subscribe, hit your little bell for notifications, and do us a favor and share that everywhere. If you cannot catch our shows live, excuse me, you can always watch or listen later on any of these services previously mentioned, but also on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bud Light Baseball Brunch every Sunday. Greg Murphy, Chris Sack. I say it every week. I say it in between. I share their posts when it comes up. That is the best Phillies talk out there. All right. They give you an hour of their time. Yeah, sometimes it pre-records on different days, but it airs from 11 a.m. to noon on 102.5 Fox Sports The Gambler and also on iHeartRadio. I believe that's Fox Sports The Gambler as well. Usually the StreamYard is up too, so you can hop on in and watch the boys live. They can't really call out too many of your comments just because it does go onto the actual radio station, whereas us here on Wednesday nights, it's just strictly a podcast. So I can I can pretty much say whatever I want. But yeah, don't forget to catch Greg and Chris for Bud Light Baseball Brunch, the best Phillies talk out there. Russellpalooza, I saw he's in here, is up to 868 Hot Wheels cars to be donated to the youth there in Philly. Excellent job, my brother. Looking forward to when that thing hits quadruple digits and you get up to 1,000. Quick announcement. You guys know, those of you that have been with us here, the Midwest Eagles Nest. I've said the last couple of weeks we're playing a kind of a preseason kind of pep rally. That weekend of Labor Day on that Saturday would be September 2nd, but also an announcement to go along with that. Those of you who have been watching us here on Wednesday nights and then on the couple of Friday nights we've had to do, you have seen a number of times where this show has taken place at the Back Porch Saloon in our nest there. And the gentleman who usually joins me there, my partner in crime with the Midwest Eagles Nest, the general manager of the Back Porch, Mike Solon. He and his beautiful new bride, Angie, they were married this past Sunday. Beautiful service over in Sharonville here, about 20 minutes away. Gorgeous little area. The weather was perfect. The reception was back at the Back Porch. Everybody had a great time. Could not ask for a better day. And we're just so happy for the two of them and their immediate families. I had the privilege of being in the wedding party. So I'm sure at some point you guys will see, those of you who are friends with me or follow me on Facebook or whatever, I'm sure at some point you will see tagged photos of me in a tuxedo Do not get used to that sort of view. What you see here is usually what you get. But was more than happy to, and more, not just happy, but happy and honored to put on the tux and stand beside my brother there while he got married. And it was, like I said, great service. They are perfect for each other, and we could not be happier. So a big Green Legion Radio congratulations to the brand new Mr. and Mrs. Michael Solon. What else do we got here? Folks, 3 weeks away now, right? We've been talking about it every week. I'm not going to stop talking about it. Matter of fact, I'm probably going to talk about it even more. We are 21 days, 16 hours, and 51 minutes away from invading Philadelphia. That is my wife, our 3 kids, and my fat ass coming in to try to eat up all of your cheesesteaks. 3 short weeks. Things have changed a little bit. I thought I had read on the Babe Ruth Birthplace Museum site that they were not open on Mondays. Apparently, their site had the wrong information up there. It's since been corrected. They are not open on Mondays from October through March. They are open 7 days a week, basically the rest of the year, aside from like Thanksgiving, Christmas, shit like that, including Mondays. So I think we are going to go back to our original plan, which is, that Monday that we're in town, probably saying goodbye to Philly and heading down to Baltimore to have our family day down there before we start heading back here to the Midwest. But a couple of the other changes. It looks like Michelle is going to be able to be off the entire day on Thursday. So we are going to be able to leave in the morning rather than kind of early afternoon, which will get us into Philly a little earlier. More like dinner time. We'll be able to be to town. So I'll be talking to Sam at some point about where we can go get something to eat when we get to town. And then Friday we'll be a little bit more well rested. And that day will go on as usual, as previously planned. As soon as we have solid plans on where we want to have lunch and where we want to have dinner on that Friday, I will get that out to all of you so you have the opportunity to come and give me shit with my family. That Saturday is still baseball day. The boys and I going to do Padres at Phillies at Citizens Bank. And then it's going to be, I think it's the Marlins. Is it the Marlins at the Orioles? Down at Camden Yards that same night. So, and then Sunday was going to be, my brothers were going to be in South Jersey. And they were going to come over and kind of hang with us for the day. That, unfortunately, is not happening now. They will be my niece, Layla. She's got a big swim competition. So my brothers will not be coming down. That leaves Sunday for us to roam around Philly and try to hook up, make it a little easier to try to hook up with some of y'all. Most of our sightseeing will be out of the way at that point, so we should be a little bit more flexible. And again, when we can figure out where lunch and dinner are going to happen on those days, on that Sunday, I'll get that all out to you too. I do intend to bring the whole fam over to Xfinity on that Sunday to kind of see Bud Light Baseball Brunch live and say hi to Chris and Greg and whoever else may be down there. So that's definitely on the agenda for that Sunday. But those are the changes going on with the trip, and it's been kind of a moving target with what we're going to be able to do. And, of course, weather will play a role as well. If Saturday all of a sudden washes out both games, those 2 games are likely to be part of double headers on that Sunday, which will make it difficult for us. But we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. Usually on baseball trips, we get away with it, but we'll have to wait and see. So that takes care of that. Let's hop back over the room here for just a minute. What do we got here? Andrew again. Best wishes to the rescue mission of the people in the submarine. All right, let's touch on that for just a minute. There is a 19-year-old young man on that submarine. Okay, it's before we get into some fun and sports and stuff. This is a big story. Some of you who are friends with me on social media, I was posting memes about it today. And That's not to take shots at, certainly not at the 19-year-old kid. I do feel bad for. I'm not sure really how bad I feel for the adults in that vessel at this point. Now, obviously, any loss of life can be tragic, but you think about, so they're kind of like crammed into this thing. There's one tiny little window, however big it is, right? There are something like 18 or 20 bolts that they can't open, even if the thing popped back up to the surface. Even if they're bopping around in the ocean on the surface, they can't open the hatch, the door, whatever, because it's bolted down. So these guys paid $250,000 each to be basically locked in to this vessel with no way out unless somebody from the outside comes to open it, in an effort to go 12,500 feet beneath the surface just to see the wreckage of the Titanic, which you can go and see the images and stuff. And there's a number of museums. I don't understand the logic. I think it's rich people who just have nothing else to do with their money. And I find it a bit stupid, a lot stupid, to be perfectly honest with you. The kid I feel very sorry for. It was probably something, his dad, rich people, hey, son, I can spend $500,000 for both of us to go. And now they're down. And now the reports yesterday were that there was sonar that had picked up a banging noise, I guess once every half an hour, somewhere in the vicinity of where they went down. Apparently they lost communication with their, the parent ship or whatever, only an hour and 45 minutes into after they had submerged. So this thing was basically doomed from the start. Now, like I said, there's more to it. So you can't, even like I said, if it resurfaces and it's just floating, they can't open the hatch, which means the good air pumping in there is still a problem. They launched with only 96 hours worth of oxygen, of good oxygen. That's going to expire sometime tomorrow morning. And that's just based on normal breathing. You got to think that if they are still alive, panic has set in. And, more exertion, breathing. We don't know what kind of filters or exhaust is kicking out the carbon dioxide that you're exhaling. As the air quality diminishes, it starts to, the brain doesn't get enough oxygen. You start to hallucinate. Things start to get out of whack. Your vision is messed up. Eventually they will die, of course. But, overall, you hope that they get found. You don't wish death on anyone. But, dude, what the fuck were you thinking? And then on top of all that, have you seen how this thing was controlled? It's a Bluetooth. Think about a PlayStation controller. That's pretty much what it is. Like your modern PlayStation controllers, right? Where they're Bluetooth to the console. That's what this thing is. It's really not a whole lot different. So again, $250,000 to jump into a 22-foot vessel where you're all kind of crammed into this one little space. The passengers have to actually help, do shit around the vessel. With 96 hours of air, all just to dive 12,500 feet to the ocean floor to see the wreckage of a ship from 111 years ago, when there are numerous museums that can show you the same thing. So maybe it's not the same thing, but you're only looking out of one little window. Ooh, look, there's the side of the ship rotting. Who gives a shit? Have we not had enough of the Titanic already? Apparently, this same company has run this excursion before and had 2 more planned for later this year. Can't imagine those are going to happen, especially considering the president of the company is in that vessel right now. So I guess we'll kind of see how it happens. I didn't really want to go down too much of a rabbit hole with that. I was going to bring it up, but, Andrew, thanks for kicking that ball into play. We'll just kind of, just waiting for reports. That's it. Keenan Harmon, congrats to Mike. Good luck to the lovely bride. Yeah, she's going to need a lot of luck. Russ Taylor, Bueller. My best friend's sister's boyfriend's brother's girlfriend's heard from this guy who knows this kid who's going with the girl who saw Ferris pass out at 31. Well played, sir. Well played. Russ Taylor. So what Phillies game are you going to attend? That Saturday, which is, I will give you the exact date. It is July 15th. We are planning to be at the 1 p.m. Phillies game, Citizens Bank, for the Padres versus Phillies. That day, you guys actually have a scheduled doubleheader. So I think Chris has tickets to the night game. And so we're going to go to the 1 o'clock game. We will be out there lined up waiting to get in. Because truth be told, the for lack of a better way to put it, if I can get out of there before the crowd gets out of there, it gives me a better shot to get to Baltimore a little bit earlier. There's a giveaway at both ballparks. I'd like to be able to get both. Again, weather and whatnot, we'll just have to play it by ear and see how it goes. The boys and I, when we go see a stadium for the first time, we like to get into the ballpark early. We like to walk the ballpark, see any statues, monuments, whatever. In the case of Citizens Bank, you're looking at Ashburn Alley and all of that sort of stuff. Obviously, we want to grab cheesesteaks while we're there, or crab fries or whatever. But the staples for us are I get my daughter a stuffed animal. In this case, it'll be a plush Fanatic, only the greatest mascot in sports. And then the boys get ice cream in the little mini helmets. So that's kind of part of their collection. And then, of course, you guys have heard me talk about that passport program where you get your validation stamp. All three of us have one of those big books, and I have a game day passport to go along with it. So that'll be what we do in both stadiums. I like to get all of that out of the way the minute we walk into the ballpark. And this way, the rest of the time that we're going to spend there can be spent, maybe seeing some more of the ballpark, getting different viewpoints and stuff, pictures, of course, and then, getting in our seats and being able to watch at least some of the game. So, Russ, missed the date you said for it's the 15th. July 15th at 1 p.m. And the Phillies Park is 95% cashless. Yeah, that's pretty much anywhere. The Reds are like that too. So that's I just bring the card and swipe, and there you go. Used to be you wanted to have that wad of cash with you, right? Because you didn't want to swipe all over the ballpark. You just wanted to be able to pay cash for everything. Now they don't let you do it anymore. Friggin' COVID. Anyways, so that's the plan there. Who else we got in here? Keenan Harmon. Sure. Seal me in a steel tube and drop me in the water and let it sink where nuclear subs. Exactly. And by the way, let me pay $250,000 to do that. Fuck out of here. I'm not dealing with that. All right, guys. So, look, we're getting into the dog days of summer here, right? This is where things start to dry out. Content becomes limited. I will try at my best to keep football as part of the show every week. Can't guarantee that's going to continue to happen. Last week we took a look at the AFC East because we play all of them. We got a little bit more specific with just those teams rather than the Eagles matchup against them. I think we'll probably keep doing some of the same with some other matchups as we go through the weeks here. I've got a couple listed today. But football, it goes through a little bit of a dry spell, right? Unless there's some huge breaking news, we end up kind of, there's a lot of baseball. And guys, if the Yankees keep struggling up and down like this, with or without Aaron Judge, I am eventually going to become unhinged. There's just no way around it. That's not going to happen this week. I'm holding out hope. But right now I am incredibly frustrated. It's not because I expected this team to be better than what they are right now. It's because it's because I didn't expect them to be better. I guess is the thing, right? Like this is the game. Anyways, I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole with that, or I will start getting frustrated, and you will have your massive rant. You're going to get one this week, anyways, though. Just kind of going around what's been going. You guys all know the PGA Tour and LIV are, merging. That's, whatever. The Cincinnati Reds, including today's game, have now won 11 straight. They're in first place in the National League Central. It's a great story for it out here. Cincinnati Reds fans, by and large, for quite some time, haven't consistently had something good for them. They haven't been able to cheer for much on a consistent basis. So, it's nice to see, the local area kind of come to life with this ball club. They're young, they're fun. Votto coming back the other night and having a big night. That was a big deal to a lot of people, and I'm sure it meant a lot to him. So they've been a fun story the last few weeks. The San Francisco Giants are also red hot. So you got two of the teams in the National League that are on fire. WNBA, Russ Taylor. See what you got me doing here? Don't forget the WNBA. It's their turn. They got next. Not on this show. Right? We're not doing that. But as far as the NBA draft goes, that's tomorrow night. I am not going to sit here and wax poetic like I'm some sort of expert on it. Grady, my son, I would have him join to talk about it. Maybe we'll do that next week for draft results. But, it's not like Diaz is on here with me where he can really give me some insight. I'll just give you the staples. Wembanyama is going to be the number one pick to the Spurs. 6'5", pretty lanky kid, but, if you watch video on him, he's just absolutely unbelievable. Scoot Henderson and Brandon Miller should be the next two behind that. Put them in any order you want. A lot of people think Brandon Miller is a solid NBA player, while Scoot Henderson has the potential upside to be, a huge all-star. And then the Portland Trailblazers pick at 3, meaning they will get one of those two should they decide to hold on to that number 3 pick. It looks right now like they will. That's all the rumors, which they're also saying likely spells the end for Dame Lillard in Portland. I don't know why those two correlate. I'm not that deeply involved in studying the NBA. I kind of go with what I need to know about it. But that's all the rumor right now is they're going to keep the 3rd pick and that Dame may be out in Portland. And that they're also going to go after Bam Adebayo from the Miami Heat. So, I know Lou and 305 Sports Babe, Ashley, they've got their own podcast at 7:30 tonight. I don't know if you're listening now, but it sounds like Portland's going to come after your big man. So, take that for what it's worth. That's pretty much it. Dave Conant in the room. Just talk baseball. I'll sit here all night with you for that. Yeah, I can't do that. That day's coming. One of those shows is coming where it's going to be all baseball, man. I mean, it's just going to get to that point, right? It happened a few times last year, too, where, we needed to dissect what was going on. Look, your Phillies are playing much better ball, okay? You get a little bit of baseball here. Way better than they were just even a couple of weeks ago. And you just got to stay with it. I think we had a question to start the show. Yeah, Andrew Bagley, what about, asking what about Nola? I think you have to bet on positive right now, right? 2-3 weeks ago, and I know Nola still hasn't been great, but 2 or 3 weeks ago, you would have looked at that Nola start and just been like, ugh, fuck. He can't pitch. We can't hit. Now, even if he scuffles a bit, I think you got to feel a little bit more confident that your lineup is going to bail him out. So if I'm a Phils fan, I'm on the upswing right now. I would think very positive, and see what happens there. Russ Taylor, the number 1 pick. That boy needs to get some meat on his body. The NBA travel is different than playing in Europe. I agree. 6'5", but it looks like he weighs about 150 pounds. It's a little scary. Russ Taylor again, European basketball is shorter trips and shorter seasons. How many time zones do European teams travel during the season? That I don't know. That's a good question. We know that here in America, you'll go through what? 4? Right? Is it 4? Yeah. East, Central, Mountain, and West. Yeah, he is 7'5", and like I said, I don't know what the hell his weight is. It's not very much. Anyways, all right. Let's get on to it here. The boner of the week. I know Lou Mancini was saying he already knew who it was. I think you guys should be able to figure it out. We have our second repeat offender of the year, of course, the first being John Morant. Ladies and gentlemen, the now former West Virginia University head basketball coach, Bob Huggins. Okay? It was just a month ago when he was on Cincinnati's WLW on a talk show and dropped, a bunch of anti-homosexual slurs directed at the folks at Xavier University. I know I don't need to rehash what was said here. It's easy to look up. I'm not going to repeat it on this show. When that took place, he had to meet with the athletic director, all of that stuff. His contract was reworked, right, which reduced his pay by $1 million for the upcoming season. But like we talked about when we awarded him Boner of the Week the first time, reducing it by $1 million for the upcoming season was one thing, but they also restructured it entirely to where instead of just having another few years of a contract guaranteed, it became a year-to-year contract. So basically what they were telling you was, the way I read that, they were telling you that we're probably going to cut you out of the mix at the end of the upcoming season. Look, if he's not a 900-plus win Hall of Fame basketball coach, he probably would have been fired after the slurs. He did have a previous DUI arrest in 2004, which was the beginning of the end for his tenure here as the coach here at UC. Which brings us now to today. And what happened to good old Bobby? Hammered behind the wheel again. This time, he blew .21. 0.21. It's closer to 3 times the legal limit than it is 2 times the legal limit of 0.08. Just a short time later, it wasn't long after that you started to see the reports came in that he was expected to step down as the coach of West Virginia. And I will read you his statement to the West Virginia community. And I quote, "Today I have submitted a letter to President Gordon Gee and Vice President and Director of Athletics Ren Baker informing them of my resignation and intention to retire as head men's basketball coach at West Virginia University, effective immediately. My recent actions do not represent the values of the university or the leadership expected in this role. While I have always tried to represent our university with honor," really, "I have let all of you and myself down. Not the first time. I am solely responsible for my conduct, no shit, and sincerely apologize to the university community, again, particularly the student athletes, coaches, and staff in our program. I must do better." Yeah, that's been going on for a while. "And I plan to spend the next few months focused on my health and my family so that I can be the person they deserve. It has been the honor of my professional career to lead the men's basketball program at my alma mater, and I take great pride in our accomplishments. But I am most proud of the tremendous young men who chose to spend their formative years with us and who have gone on to do great things with their lives. I was born in Morgantown, graduated from West Virginia University, and had the pleasure of coaching here for 17 seasons as an assistant or head coach. It will always be my home, and I will always be a Mountaineer. Thank you to everyone who has supported our program over the years. It has meant more to me and my family than you could ever know. Like, he just had to put out a statement like this a fucking month ago. Like, come on. Yeah, bottoms up, Huggy Bear. All right? You blew 2.1 on the damn breathalyzer a month after you were calling half the people in Cincinnati going to, or all the people going to a particular university, an anti-gay slur, and an anti-Catholic slur all in one shot. Talking about the crosstown shootout when he was a Cincinnati basketball head coach with a hot mic. Now, shame on the guys, and I forget what the hell the name of the show was, but shame on the guys for not telling them the mic was hot. But, I mean, dude, it's a month later, and you're having to apologize for more crap? I mean, we talked about it at the time right on this show. Sensitivity training he was going to go to? Yeah, that was going to go real well. That was going to work out a lot. And here he is talking about how he let everyone down. He was going to work on his overall health. Like, you were supposed to have already been doing that. And we all knew you were full of it then. You think anybody buys it now just because you got hammered and got caught again? Get out of here, dude. Go sell crazy somewhere else. We're all stocked up here. I mean, my God. It's just, look, apparently, so when he was the UC head coach, my wife was working at the Back Porch Saloon years ago. And she said that he did come in there on a few different occasions and was actually very nice, but very much to himself. And then he got pinched here for the DUI, and that, the athletic director didn't care for it, and that basically kicked off a timeline of events that eventually ended up with his departing, right? I think he was out of coaching for a year or whatever, and then went to he started Kansas State or something like that, and then ended up jumping over to West Virginia, which is his alma mater. It was a good match. But, dude, 0.21? I mean, holy shit. Hey, look, I know I'm quite sure any one of us, myself included even on this past Sunday night, had I blown it. Now, look, I didn't drive because, well, I'm not Bob Huggins. But at some point in our lives, did someone come up with a breathalyzer? You'd have blown 0.21. At any point when you felt you could have been that hammered, think back on it. If it's been a while, or if it was just this past Sunday like me, think back to that moment. And if you can remember it, do you think it would have been a good idea to be behind the wheel of a car again after already having this happen to you once? I mean, come on, dude. Give me a break. Boner of the week, slam dunk. Bob Huggins, way to go. Yep, Lou Mancini, you had it pegged, brother. Russ Taylor, the real boner of the week is the SFA Austin assistant women's bowling coach sleeping with a player. His wife is the head coach. Yeah, I mean, but who the hell gives a shit about a bowling coach? That ain't his story. He's used to playing with balls anyways, right? Keenan Harmon, if I had his money, someone would be driving my ass everywhere I'd have to go. Thank you. If a schmuck like me can afford to pay for Uber, so can Huggy Bear. All right? No excuse for it. Lou Mancini, Russ, now he has time to send you some Hot Wheels. This is why I do this part of the show every week, the boner of the week, is to get the laughs. David Conant, dude, he's most likely an alcoholic, several DUIs in his. Yeah, I mean, it's obvious. Remember, he was part of the double dong with John. Yeah, exactly. Actually, was that the trifecta? That was the trifecta that week. There was John Morant, there was Bob Huggins, and then there was that idiot from the Oakland A's announcer that used the racial slur. That was awesome. Lou Mancini again, David, and yes, he's a stupid alcoholic as well. Just don't drive, Got my vote. So there. That's your boner of the week. Bottoms up again, Huggy Bear. How much? So let me ask this. So So he gets pinched, right? He's got to know right then and there that he's going to have to retire, right? Or they're just going to fire him, right? I mean, credit to the university for allowing him to say he's retiring rather than the honest answer, which was, "Dude, you're fired." The credit West Virginia University on that. But how long? I'm going to ask this. So he shakes off the hangover. He makes this. He goes in, meets with them, signs all the paperwork. He's done, makes his statement. That gets out. I just read all that to you. How long after that before he cracks his first beer? Right? I mean, really, how long do you think it took? You think it was, did he go right to a bar? Did he go straight home and crack one? Did he crack one on the way to the bar or to his house? I mean, dude, I can't with this guy. It's enough. And nobody's perfect, but I mean, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. No, not going to happen. Anyways. All right. So there's your boner of the week. I'm sure you enjoyed all that. Lou Mancini says he had a flask in his car. There you go. I wonder if he got his license taken away on the spot. I don't know how it works in West Virginia. They might have taken his license, right? I mean, that's severe. You're almost 3 times the legal limit. I know in Tennessee, if you're over double or something like that, you are automatic. I think it's 3 or 4 days in jail, automatically, and they take your license away for a year, and you can go and you got to get a breathalyzer in your car and all kinds of wacky shit, and you drive under a suspended kind of permit license to get to work and whatnot. You can drive whenever you want. The car won't start until you blow into the thing and it says you're clean. So, yeah. Good luck with that, Huggy Bear. Anyways, let's move on. Okay? And I want to move on to yet another college coach, Dave Conant. I think you're going to be a fan of this portion of the show. This time it's with football. All right? And this coach is widely considered one of, if not the best to ever do it. Be that as it may, I can tell you, if it wasn't for Huggins, this might be the boner of the week. So let's call him the runner-up. But yeah, we're talking about Nick Saban. All right, I don't know if Kirby Smart getting the better of him over the last couple of years drove him over the wall. But we're talking about that Nick Saban, right? We all know his accolades. He's 280, 69-1 overall. He's 19-11 in bowl games, 10 SEC conference championships, 7 national championships. The list goes on and on and on. Okay. So, given all those accolades and all that, when we think about Nick Saban, what do you think about? You think about his success as a head coach, right? Great coaching, great recruiting, the intelligence, everything that goes into being considered, possibly be considered the GOAT of college football coaching, right? So it would stand to reason that when he's asked about the college game, the rankings, the playoffs, and all that sort of thing, that, it would stand to reason that he would be providing solid insight, right? And that his comments would be somewhat worth their weight. I'll ask you now, did anyone happen to catch his interview on the Joel Klatt Show podcast? I'm specifically talking about one portion of that interview that he did. If you didn't, allow me to fill it in for you. Before Russ Taylor, I think about his coaching tenure as the Miami Dolphins coach. Ouch. David Conant, I think he's a douchebag. That's my sense. I told you you'd like this part. Because we're getting to that. You can call him whatever you want, but you can't say he wasn't successful. Okay? He hasn't been successful. In an interview with Joel Klatt on the Joel Klatt podcast, Coach Saban was asked about the college football playoff system when it came to parity in the FBS and whether there was a better way to decide which teams got in, right? So we all know how the playoff is currently set up. It's 4 teams, okay? His response, now, mind you, this is the Alabama head coach. I think they've missed, since the current playoff system has gone into play, I think they've missed it, 2 times? 3 times, including this past year, something like that? So here's his response. And I mean, oof. And I quote, "So all we do is take the teams that win the most games at the end of the year and put them in the playoffs. But do you really get the best teams? Now that part, he's not wrong. This part is where you lose me altogether. When they told me that we would be favored against 3 out of the 4 teams that got in the playoff, I'm like, why aren't we in the playoffs?" Dude, are you serious? Are you serious? Because you were told you would have been favored against 3 of the 4 teams, that means you should be in with an 11-2 record? No, it doesn't freaking mean that, Nick, okay? You were favored by, and I'll tell you why. That whole statement makes, now look, the first part of his statement isn't entirely wrong. I don't think they just take the teams with the best records, and I do feel like his statement overall is a lot of boo-hoo because he got left out. And he's had to watch his former assistant, Kirby Smart, win back-to-back national championships, right? He's had to watch an assistant of his finally get the better of him that hadn't happened the entire time he'd been at Bama, right? And Kirby Smart finally punched through and got it. And now Kirby's got the best team in the nation for the last 2 years. It's not Bama. And that bothers Nick. And so he's pissing and moaning about it. But this whole thought that you should have been in the playoff because Vegas said you were, however many points better than 3 of the 4 teams, nobody gives a shit. All right? Anybody who follows that line of thought is nothing but a homer, okay? You're just a homer, and your opinion really means nothing, at least not to me anyways. The games that get played have to count for something, okay? And I'm sorry, Nick, but outside of your freaking schedule in the SEC, it's not like you load up with a bunch of freaking juggernauts. All right? Go take a look at some of the teams that Bama plays outside of the SEC conference games. It's usually a bunch of cupcakes. Now, everybody does it, but when you do that and you still end up 11-2, you don't then get to come back and bitch when you don't get into the playoff. All right? And I'll give you some examples as to why you can't just take. I mean, we all know why, right? You can't just say, "Oh, they're favored, so they win." So why even play the games at all, right? Why even play them at all? Bama was favored by 8.5 over Tennessee in Tennessee at Neyland. And they lost that game 52-49. 52 points they gave up. And that game didn't even in overtime. 52-49. They were also favored by 13.5 over LSU at Tiger Stadium and lost that one 32-31 in overtime. So that's a combined what? A combined 22 points of favorite, right? You were favored by a total of 22 points over these 2 teams, and you lost both games. And why? Tell me why why now should that mean anything? Why now should you being, Vegas thought you were better than TCU. I'm guessing it was TCU, Michigan, and I can't remember the other one. Anyways, so here's another one. Bama was also favored by like 21 points at Texas early in the season and had to come from behind late to eke out a 20-19 win. Ohio State was favored by 7.5 over Michigan and lost that game 45-23. Michigan was favored by 7.5 over TCU in the playoff, the Fiesta Bowl, and lost that 51-45. Dude, just because Vegas says, well, if you played them, we would have had you as a 7-point favorite, that doesn't mean you should be in the playoff. Your 11-2 record, when stacked up against the other teams that were that actually made the playoff this year, it didn't measure up. It just wasn't your turn this year, Nick. And the crybaby routine is disgusting. You can't just, so what are you saying? You just want the Vegas lines to decide the team's records and who advances? Why even play the games at all with that? The play, like I said, the play on the field has to count for something. The wins and losses have to count for something. And again, you're in the playoff almost every single year since its inception. This just wasn't your year this year. Okay? You went 11-2. And one of your 11 wins was over a Texas team that you had to eke out a 1-point victory late in the game after being favored by 21 points. So take your little argument about the Vegas line and flush it down the toilet. Nobody wants to hear it. Yeah, your former protege, once again I'll say it, your former protege, your former assistant, Kirby Smart, with the Bulldogs, now has the best team in the best conference in the country. The best team in the country. Nick, you're going to have to get over it. Right? Because nobody cares about your crybaby crap. There's your rant for the week. Dave Comment says, best team money can buy. Dude, you know what? NIL money is all over the place now, so I don't you're probably not wrong, but I would also tell you that Bama was not the only team, has not been the only team throwing oogles of money at people. So it's one thing to be able to get the talent. It's a whole other thing to be able to coach it and win with it. And, you know, maybe Bama's been able to go pay for it, but they've also been able to assemble it together, get it to gel together, and win with it. What else we got here? Russ Taylor. Joe Klatt, who never took a snap in the NFL. All right. Well, I mean, I don't mind Joel Klatt. You know what I don't like? On college football, on the big noon kickoff, the noon Fox games, they have Klatt, who I think would be decent in the booth, except he's paired with Gus Johnson, who I absolutely cannot stand. And I know Dave is going to start quoting his stuff with the freaking Cincinnati kid crap, what he called Sean Clifford at Penn State. But, yeah, Gus Johnson, I'd like to see Klatt get a chance with a guy who's not nauseating, I guess is my point. David Conner, his Alabama teams are like watching blue chips. Well, not, the last couple, the whole SEC is like that, though. Georgia's the same way. Russ Taylor, it's the participation mentality. It is. And I expect more from a guy who's reached that level of success. I do. I expect a lot more out of a guy like that. Foolish on my part. David Conner, he only played 3 or 4 top 25 non-conference teams on the road in his whole tenure. No respect for that. I agree. That's kind of what I was getting at before. Take a look at their out-of-conference schedules, and they don't load it up, man. I mean, sometimes they're playing like smaller teams inside the state of Alabama. That school gets so much money from those games, so they're kind of doing them a favor, even though they go and just blast them. I don't know. All I know is their out-of-conference schedule, for the most part, has been weak sauce. Now, the same thing, you get the same answer all the time from Bama fans, is that they claim they don't have to because their conference schedule is so much tougher. I don't think it's that way year in and year out. All right. And I think Bama's schedule this past year, as it pertains to their conference schedule, it's not not as stout as it had been in the past. And I think that's also a reason why you saw them on the outside looking in. The second loss was the number one reason. But the overall strength of schedule didn't help. Keenan Harmon, Georgia, the Eagles farm team. You're damn right. The Georgia-Delphia Bird Dogs. All right. So there's your rant for the week. What do we got? We got about 10 minutes left here. So, Birds fans, last week we took a look at the AFC East. And here on this show, we have it as 3-1 in favor of our Birds, with wins over New England, Miami, and Buffalo, while dropping the game against the Jets. I know Captain Demps was not a fan of that. Doesn't see it that way. I forget who else in here was also on that bandwagon. Look, I don't like the Rams game as our first loss. I know Quimby does. It's obviously we don't. None of us know. Until it happens. When you look at the talent on the field, I think the Eagles are overwhelmingly better than the Rams. And I know that Aaron Donald's back, and I know that Cooper Kupp is back. But I also know they can't run the ball. I also know that Matt Stafford might be done. So, when and I get it, you're flying across the country to go play that game. Well, then you got to fly all the way back to play another road game against the Jets. And the Jets, who, while I still think we've probably got more talent, the Jets are good. And like I said, I am basing my opinion of that game on Aaron Rodgers staying fully committed and staying healthy. All right. If either of those things go by the wayside, then so does the pick, because Rodgers ties it all together. But they can run the ball with Breece Hall coming back. They have the offensive rookie of the year in Garrett Wilson. They brought in Alan Lazard, who's a 6'5" target that can cause problems in the red zone, and someone that Rodgers is already comfortable with. They have a solid offensive line. They also have a very strong defense, with their number one corner being likely the number one corner in football in Sauce Gardner. So it's possible that one of our top two receivers is completely taken away in that game. All right. I just think if we're looking at the Rams and the Jets as that's the area where we're going to have our first loss, I do think it's more likely that we lose to the Jets. Again, a committed and healthy Rodgers is key to that equation. Anyways, this week, let's take a look at a couple others, okay? Because I want to try to save some of this so we can carry it week to week. I want to start with our home opener, which is week 2 at home against the Vikings, the Minnesota Vikings. The second year in a row that we will open the link with these purple clowns. All right? We all remember last year it was a Monday. This time it's a Thursday. Both times, though, it's a primetime game. And we all know what happens to Kirk Cousins when those lights come on and shine bright, right? Last year's game was a 24-7. I like to call it a proper Rodgering, right? The score, and look, the score, you talk about, okay, it's 3 scores, but I would tell you that game wasn't even that close. 24-7, we were basically in cruise control for the entire second half, right? Jalen went for 333 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, with another 57 on the ground to go along with 2 touchdowns rushing. He hit 8 different receivers that night, with Quez grabbing the lone touchdown pass. Cousins went for 221 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. We all know what the big story. Well, one of the biggest stories in the game, the biggest story of the game. Justin Jefferson was completely shut down, almost entirely shut down by Darius Slay. right? He was targeted a total of 12 times in that game, only hauling in 6 catches for 48 yards. And Slay had 2 of the 3 interceptions that Cousins threw. The running game, to me, was the second biggest story. Well, I mean, yeah, probably the second biggest story because it allowed us to just control the field. We outrushed them 163 to 62 in that game, right? 101-yard difference. Aside from the 57 that Jalen racked up, Sanders put up 80 yards on 17 carries, while Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell added 19 and 7 respectively. On the other side, Dalvin Cook was non-existent. 17 yards for the game on the ground, which was in a tie with Jalen Reagor for the team lead in rushing for the game. All of that tied into time of possession, favoring us 36-14 to 23-46. It was a beatdown, right? You know, all the scoring was done in the first half. Nobody scored points in the second half, which, I mean, at some points during the third quarter, I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Why aren't we running this thing up? And I'm looking at it like they were really calling vanilla. They really, really just took because we were killing them on the defensive side. I mean, I would like to see Nick. I would have liked to have seen Nick keep his foot on the gas for at least the 3 quarters, but that didn't happen. And whatever. We won the game 24-7. It was a beatdown. Minnesota did go on to have a fairly, a big year at 13-4, but remember, they got exposed for the frauds they were by getting thumped at home in the wild card round versus the lowly New York Giants. Oh, that pesky 30th ranked defense. We talked about it right here on this show. I picked the Giants that game. I think a lot of you did as well. I know Green Legion Radio was all over that as well. The Vikings were frauds going into that game. No question about it. But let's get back to this year. And this might be the only game we do tonight. I might be able to clip this right at an hour tonight. So get back to this year and look at what we're going to have to – as it stands right now, okay, they don't have Dalvin Cook anymore, right? So that's an aspect that we don't have to worry about. The running back depth chart currently shows Alexander Madison, Kenny Nwangwu, and Ty Chandler with C.J. Ham listed as a fullback. Is anyone scared of – does that sound frightening to anyone? Bueller? Again, it's like that major league line, right? Like, who the hell are these fucking guys, right? We do know that Justin Jefferson is a stud. So expecting to shut him down like he was shut down last year, expecting that to happen again is probably a foolish expectation. But we also know that Cousins is still the guy throwing him the ball. We also know that Cousins sucks in primetime, in particular road primetime. Philadelphia, home opener, fans ravenous coming off the Super Bowl appearance this past year, ready to come out and have our team hear us. I just don't see that going well for Minnesota, particularly not for Cousins. And now they also have no running back that's a threat. So you do not have to play up in the box. You just don't have to do that, right? You can back off. I would expect Cousins to get blitzed pretty much all night long, right? What's to remember the Titans line? You blitz all night. I like the game 28-17. Not a ton different from last year. I think Minnesota might put it. And 28-17, I'm talking about like a late garbage time touchdown from Minnesota. I think we've got our foot off the gas in the fourth quarter. I just don't see the game being a problem. Did their defense get a little better? Yeah, maybe, probably. But it had nowhere to go but up. Okay? That defense was trash last year. Absolute trash. Trash. Did you watch the playoff game against the Giants? When you can make Daniel Jones look that good, you're a garbage defense. I'm sorry. Daniel Jones is nothing more than a mid-quarterback at his best day. Right? Yeah, nobody's scared of the Vikings. All right. I think we're going to stop there, guys. The weather's nice here. I'd like to go enjoy that a little bit. Okay. So we're going to clip it right here at an hour. Listen, guys, we're only 3 weeks away. When we talk again, it's going to be down to 2 weeks away. If you guys have a spot that you'd like to meet up for lunchtime, dinner time on that Friday night, on that Sunday, send them to me. Okay. I don't know if we'll be able to venture too far outside the city, but if you have the means and the availability to get down someplace, look, I'm not going to Geno's or Pat's. Okay. Get that out of your head. But Angelo's sounds like it's got to be on the list. Obviously, John's roast pork. I'm sure Samantha's got an idea for us. For lunch, dinner, breakfast, whatever. But so get that information over to me. If there's anything, if you guys would like to meet up, if any of you intend to go to the ball game, that 1 p.m. ball game on that Saturday, July 15th, let us know. Obviously you're not going to be able to sit right with us, but we'll certainly meet up, have a few laughs, and shoot the shit for a few minutes while the boys and I are on our tour of Citizens Bank. And also, if you guys know, if you're going to be at the game and you'd like to act as a tour guide for an inning or two, be more than happy to take you up on the offer. So, with that, folks, for everyone in the room, Dave Conant, Keenan Harmon, Lou Mancini, Russ Taylor, who else did we get in here? Blah, 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 blah. Russ Taylor, Andrew Bagley, and whoever else may be listening. We thank you, as always, for joining us. Come back again next week when we'll be just 2 short weeks away from our trip to Philadelphia. Until then, this has been the Unhappy Gilmore Show, part of Green Legion Radio family. Everyone, take care. Enjoy the weekend. Be safe. Don't be like Bob Huggins. Right? Remember, the judge ain't back in till Monday. Use Uber. Use Lyft. I hope the weather stays good for you. And as always, like we say every week, go Birds! All right, kids. We'll see you next week. Again, be safe. We love you.